what's going on in the California state legislature. And I don't, you could hope, well, there's still the Supreme Court. Well, that ain't going to last very long. The leftists on the court, I think, are drinking vampire blood at night to stay alive, or doing something, and they're going to stay there as long as they can until there is Democratic control, which will happen soon. And then they're all going to retire and going to be replaced with Stalinists. That's the only way to put it. Absolute Stalinists. And that means all the protections of the First Amendment, gone. Second Amendment, gone. All of it, gone. Because once you turn those things into a living document that can be reinterpreted in any way you see fit, that's the end of that. And it's coming. It's coming like a steamroller. The next generation wants it. The next generation, when they are asked, a large proportion of them don't think freedom of speech is relevant. Don't think that that's, of course, right now they're exercising it, don't realize they're exercising it, and don't think much about what it's going to be like when they can't exercise it. But so what we're seeing in California, this bill, any therapy that seeks to change sexual orientation, behavior, feelings, or expressions will be illegal because it is defined as fraud. If you are a church that employs licensed therapists, your church and therapist will be prosecuted for conducting change therapy for a fee. If you are a church administrator that publishes and sells books, articles, or convention tickets on how to experience change in LGBT issues, you will have broken the law. If you or your children have been sexually abused, which has resulted in homosexual attractions, it will be illegal to seek change therapy for those homosexual feelings. If you or your children have gender dysphoria leading to transgenderism, it will be illegal to conduct change therapy for this condition. It seems to me, and again, this is California, there are already elected officials in California that I think would support the idea that since 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 11 specifically says that you can change, that it would be good to make sure the Bible is not found in any libraries in California. China's getting rid of the Bible. China's probably, the theory is they're going to be coming up with their own translation. Oh yeah, there you go. State-sponsored translations. That always tells you something. What's happening in California is just it's a preview window. It's a preview window of what's coming. That's all it is. And I think a lot of us took a vacation when Hillary Clinton wasn't elected. We took a vacation figuring, whew, okay, dodge that bullet. But it's like, for how long? Not very long at all. And I only mean just only in this area. It's not like the Trump administration has been really putting the brakes on in this area. They haven't. This is not a big issue for Trump. So, I mean, we just blew the budget up once again and funded Planned Parenthood. I forget I figured the numbers out. How many tens of thousands of dollars per hour in taxpayer money still flowing into the coffers of the greatest murderous organization in the history of the world. Genghis Khan would be proud of these folks. But at least we thought, well, if more justices die, at least, nothing's happened. You got Gorsuch, and that's it. That's probably all you are going to get. Because in all probability, let's say the House and the Senate flip at the election. That's it. Nothing else is going to happen. Nothing else is going to happen. It's going to be utterly dysfunctional for 2 years. And you won't be able to get a decent jurist appointed anywhere because the left knows that the courts are their way of overthrowing the Constitution of the United States, any kind of barrier in their way. So there you go. Sorry to be so, as my son says, thank you, Debbie Downer. But Debbie Downer, unfortunately, seems to know what's going on in our culture in Washington, D.C. So this stuff in California, you say, no, that could never happen. Yes, it can. Never thought same-sex marriage could happen. Never thought any of these things. It's the frog in the pot in the pan. You know, if you try to drop a frog into boiling water, it's going to jump out instantly. But if you just leave it in there as it warms up, it'll sit there and cook because it goes slowly enough. Well, the speed's picking up. The speed is picking up. It is amazing. Oh man, I should not have Twitter up. Huh? I'm not even looking over there. R. Scott Clark just said something, and he's responding to Thabiti as well. So that's interesting. So more of the utter cultural insanity is right in front of us, and it is this. You know, when people always say, "What's the greatest danger facing the church?" and things like that. You know, Paul identified pressures within and without. Pressures within the church, pressures outside the church. And each generation, I think, has to do some serious thought as to what the greatest challenge at this particular point in time is. The rise of secular leftist totalitarianism, which leads to the communism of China, North Korea, the communism of the past in the Soviet Union, which has never been a friend of the Christian faith, has always sought to... Totalitarian communism understands that a Christian is a free man in Christ and therefore does not worship the state. And communism is based upon the ultimate authority of the state. And the next generation is already made up of a large proportion of people who are ready to embrace that in the West. We lost the Cold War. The wall may have fallen, but that just made it easier for everybody to come this direction and take over the educational institutions of the West. And as a result, that kind of totalitarian secularism, that's what's coming our direction. There is going to be a great pruning. Evangelicalism as a term will become irrelevant because the numbers will be so small. The great megachurches will either become state-sponsored entertainment centers or shopping malls. Well, shopping malls are going the way of the dinosaur too. Skate parks, whatever. There just won't be enough people willing to pay the price to keep things like that open. The true church will look a whole lot more like the true church did in the early church. A persecuted minority of people willing to pay the price. Willing to pay the price. And it's easy for us to talk about that right now. Not a one of us knows what we are going to do outside of the grace of God when we are faced with separation between husband and wife, parents and children. Believers around the world face that every single day. We haven't, but at the speed at which this is happening, you look at those people in the California state legislature, a large proportion of them would be willing to see the power of the state used to suppress the proclamation of the gospel that says that homosexuality is a sin and that you can be changed from those desires and changed from that lifestyle and that experience. And that there is hope for someone who doesn't want to be gay, doesn't want to experience same-sex attraction. That there's hope for that person. There's a greater hope in Christ than there is in the living of that lifestyle and the experience of those desires. There are people in California that would love to have that silenced because it goes against Well, the new religious dogma of the West, this absolute human autonomy. So this is what now. This is a good way of transitioning into what we need to address. At this very time, where we have these kinds of issues to be addressing, we find ourselves divided. And I do not think it is without purpose that the timing is as it is. A united, believing church that sees what the issues are, willing to sacrifice and work together to clearly proclaim to the culture around us the wrath of God and God's judgment upon a people who will so blatantly rebel against his ways. That's a formidable foe. So what you do is you expend great effort to divide that church and get it focused upon other things. Get it to where there is no unity. We're sniping at each other. And that way the others can just move ahead with their promotion of everything that is opposed to godly morality and ethics, destruction of the family, marriage unit, male and female, all gifts given by God, destroyed by man's fertile imagination and rebellious sin. And we're not being clear in our enunciation of the right way, pointing to the light, because we're divided amongst ourselves.